There is a people group on the earth who are 35 million strong. They're the largest people group in the world who do not have a homeland of their own. They are likely to be the world's next new nation. They're called the Kurds, and I'd like to tell you just a little bit of their story.
We're trying to get along very well. We do get along great with the Kurds. We're trying to help them a lot.
So who are the Kurds, and what do we know about them? Let's start by looking at a map of Iraq. The Kurds live in this area, which makes them seem like a small group, but if you pull back, you see that the Kurdish people actually live across a large continuous block of the Middle East that spreads across Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. It's commonly known as Kurdistan. There are anywhere from 15 to 20 million Kurds living in this area with their own language and culture, and about 4 million of those are living in Iraq. Kurds by religion are Sunni Muslims, but they existed prior to Islam and they were resistant to the Arab military expansion that took place in the 6th century.
Iraqi Kurdistan is a semi-autonomous state with its own regional government, mostly made up of Iraq's Kurdish ethnic minority.
В целом я имею в виду традиционные, исторически очень добрые отношения. Доверительные, очень добрые. Я понимаю всю сложность этого вопроса в регионе, все многообразие этой сложности. Но учитывая все эти тонкие моменты, мы исходим из того, что нам ничего не мешает с курдским народом развивать отношения. Будем это делать.
ترسي عربكان زياترة لما ترسي كردكان ياخذ آش.
نحن يعني في هذا نحن نرفض الاستفتاء. نحن الاستفتاء نرفضه لأنه نرى بأن مقومات الاستفتاء مقومات خاطئة وأساليب خاطئة وسوف لن يكون بصالح أحد.
While Iraq is more or less a lock for the Kurds, Kurds in Turkey, Syria, and Iran are still fighting for independence and even basic civil rights, using guerrilla warfare and suicide bombings to their ends.
پیمان خوشه مشتی با تعاون و تنسیق بی لگال بغداد بلام اگر بو با موقفی که سیاسی بو اوی دستی کرد ببسنه طبعا یمش گوینا دینی.
از دکی لیره جیا خوشه لیره جان خوشه.
نه خوشه.
دتیو بتسیت شیء لتشيل يا عمر.
ها؟
دتیو بتسیت شیء.
شو
I know that you're studying UN peacekeeping and how it's changed, but have you thought to ask why? Why has peacekeeping had to change at all? And he reminded me of a quote from a fairly well-known peace scholar named Kenneth Boulding, who said, "We are as we are because we got this way."
What are UN peacekeepers even doing in the middle of an active war zone? What exactly do UN peacekeepers do? Well, originally, peacekeeping forces were established to do just that, keep the peace after a ceasefire or resolution was established in international conflict. This was especially important during the Cold War, where a neutral party was necessary to avoid a small conflict sparking World War III.
125,000 UN personnel currently on UN peace operations. 125,000. That makes UN forces the largest forces in the world.
Peacekeepers are not simply an enforcement tool to implement the UN's wishes, but rather an impartial force designated to solve conflicts at the consent of all parties involved. Additionally, the United Nations doesn't recruit and train these forces on its own. Rather, UN member states from across the world contribute troops, police, and military experts.
Many of the troop-contributing countries are not dependent, but a lot of their GDP comes from the money they get from peacekeeping, which is why they're so keen to do it.
The result is often UN peacekeepers who are poorly trained and equipped, facing increasingly complicated conflicts such as Mali, where up to 20 different rebel groups are battling for control.
And so basically what you're doing is you're putting peacekeepers into situations where often there isn't really a peace to keep.
August 2015, United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon addressed allegations of sexual abuse by UN peacekeepers. He called the abuses a cancer in the system.
So if the UN is where we articulate these ideas, peace operations are what make them a reality.
We will regularly monitor what we are doing in the field, and we will also invite member states to do the same and to make their own assessment on what goes on in the field. What are the areas in which they think we are achieving progress? What are the areas in which they think we should do more?
So we should ask ourselves, if it's the kind of peace we have to enforce, is that a kind of peace that's going to stay? This is a UN peacekeeper protecting a refugee camp in South Sudan. Is this how we see peace? Or is this how we see security? Because the way that security is being defined now, they cannot be the same thing. We are more secured, but less secure. We're more protected than we've ever been, but we are somehow less safe. So right now we're struggling with finding a balance between governments that are strong enough to protect us from terrorism, but also can give us the space for diversity and legitimate dissent. And the outcome of these debates matter, because this is how we define peace and security. And as you've just seen, these definitions do become a reality on the ground, both in our countries and through the United Nations.